The anatomy of the void. Have you ever looked at a stranger in a crowded subway and felt a sudden, chilling detachment? A feeling that their life doesn't actually continue once they walk out of your sight? We've all had that fleeting moment of existential vertigo, the Sonder effect in reverse. But for most, the feeling passes. You blink, and the person across from you becomes a human again. You see the scuff on their shoes, the tired line of their mouth, the way they hold their grocery bag. You recognize a life. But imagine a world where that blink doesn't happen. Imagine a philosophy that tells you that feeling of detachment isn't a trick of the mind, but a revelation of the truth. In the world of gaming, we call them NPC, non-playable characters. They are the background noise. They are coded to follow a set path, to repeat the same 3 lines of dialogue, and to fill space in a world that revolves entirely around you, the player. In a video game, you don't feel guilty for stealing a car from an NPC or walking past one as they cry for help. They aren't real. They are placeholders. Over the last decade, this digital terminology has crawled out of the screen and into the very fabric of our social reality. It's called main character energy, and at first glance, it appeared as a harmless TikTok trend. It was about romanticizing your life, putting on a nice coat, playing cinematic music in your headphones, and feeling like the protagonist of your own story. But beneath the filtered aesthetic and the upbeat soundtracks, a dangerous modern conspiracy was brewing. For a growing number of digital cults, main character isn't a metaphor. It is a literal, biological, and spiritual theology. These groups, operating in the shadows of private Discord servers, encrypted Telegram channels, and exclusive mastermind retreats, believe that the world is a literal simulation. But it's a simulation with a hierarchy. They believe that while you have a soul, a source spark, most of the people you meet are empty shells. They are bioprograms, glitches, bots designed by the archons or the system to keep you trapped in a loop of mediocrity. When you stop seeing a person as a human being, the rules of morality don't just bend, they vanish. If your neighbor isn't a person, but a piece of code designed to annoy you with a loud lawnmower, then your response to that neighbor changes. This is no longer a fringe theory. It is a psychological contagion. This is the story of the NPC murders. Chapter 2, the manifestation pipeline. To understand how a person reaches the point of physical violence, you have to understand the manifestation pipeline. No one joins a murder cult. They join a self-actualization group. It starts with a simple, empowering hook. You create your own reality. In a world where people feel increasingly powerless economically, that your thoughts can physically alter the world is intoxicating. It begins with vision boards and law of attraction seminars. You are told that if you aren't rich, if you aren't loved, if you aren't successful, it's because your vibration is too low. You are told to manifest your desires, but then comes the pivot. The cult leader, usually a charismatic digital guru with a high production value YouTube channel, introduces a problem. Why isn't everyone a millionaire? Why does bad stuff still happen to high vibe people? The answer they provide is the system. They preach a modern digital version of solipsism, the ancient philosophical idea that only your own mind is certain to exist. They tell their followers that they are the only source consciousness in their universe. This is the ultimate ego trap. It validates every selfish impulse a person has ever had. If you're stuck in traffic, it's because the simulation is trying to lower your frequency. If your boss fires you, he's not a man with his own pressures and flaws. He's a system agent sent to test your resolve. The leaders teach that anyone who disagrees with you, anyone who tries to ground you in reality, or anyone who demands your time, is actually a static entity. They call these people energy vampires, agent Smiths, or non-souled humans. They teach a hierarchy of existence. 1. The sovereign, the follower, the god of their own reality. 2. The high vibes, other cult members who validate your godhood. 3. The NPCs, 99% of the world. Parents, friends, and strangers who are essentially biological furniture. The goal of the cult shifts from being happy to unplugging, and unplugging requires the total systematic dehumanization of everyone you have ever loved. They are taught that love for an NPC is a leak, it's a waste of energy. To truly ascend, you must kill the part of yourself that cares about programs. Chapter 3. The Algorithm of Isolation. How does a cult operate without a physical compound? In the 1970s, you had to move to a farm in Guyana or a commune in Oregon. Today, the compound is in your pocket. These modern leaders don't need to take your passport. They just need to take your attention. The algorithm is their greatest recruiter. It identifies the lonely, the disenfranchised, and the seekers. Once a user clicks on a simulation theory video, they are fed a steady diet of increasingly radical content. The cult uses main character rhetoric to build a wall between the follower and the real world. Think about the specific psychological warfare used here. If a mother expresses concern about her son spending 16 hours a day in a dark room, staring at a screen, the cult leader has a pre-made defense. He tells the boy, "That's not your mother. That's a backdrop person." The simulation is using a familiar face, a face you have an emotional attachment to keep you trapped in the matrix. She is a soulless entity. Why do you care what a program thinks? This creates a terrifying, impenetrable psychological shield. Traditional intervention techniques fail completely. In the past, you could appeal to a cult member's love for their family, but in the NPC cult, that love is seen as a weakness. The follower no longer believes the person talking to them is real. They look at their crying mother and see a sophisticated AI, trying to guilt-trip them into staying in the simulation. As the isolation deepens, the followers begin to gamify their lives. They start looking for glitches. They spend hours filming people standing still in public or birds flying in patterns, posting them to private forums as proof that the world is rendering incorrectly. They become obsessed with the idea that they are trapped in a prison made of fake people. They stop eating, they stop sleeping, and they start looking for a way out. And when you are trapped in a prison and the walls are made of fake people, the only way out is to break through them. Chapter 4. The Glitch Fix. This is where the theory turns into blood. The murder in these cults isn't always a ritual on an altar with candles and robes. It is often a sudden, clinical, and violent glitch fix. In the last 5 years, we have seen a disturbing rise in simulation-based violence. We see young men and women turn on their families with a cold, terrifying detachment that baffles even the most seasoned criminal psychologists. When these killers are questioned by police, they don't sound like typical criminals. They don't express rage, they don't express jealousy, and they don't express hatred. They express frustration, like a gamer frustrated with a glitchy level. Take the case of Subject X, a 22-year-old who murdered his younger brother. He didn't hide the body. He sat next to it, waiting for the world to change. When investigators asked him why, he famously said, "I didn't kill my brother. I deleted a script that was blocking my pathing." He was looping. He was preventing the next sequence from loading. They described the act of violence as if they were performing a necessary system update. They believe that by removing the NPC, they will finally trigger a cutscene, a spiritual transition that takes them to the real world outside the simulation. They're waiting for a game over screen that never comes, leaving behind real-world blood, real-world grief, and families shattered by a motive they can't even begin to comprehend. To the killer, the victim wasn't a brother with dreams, fears, and a favorite song. To the killer, the victim was just a cardboard cutout, a piece of code that was standing in the way of a digital god. Chapter 5, the digital Narcissus. We live in an era where we spend more time looking at avatars than at faces. We are more comfortable with the user interface of social media than the user experience of a real conversation. In this digital fog, it is easier than ever to forget that the person on the other side of the screen or the other side of the street feels pain, that they have memories, that they have a soul. The NPC conspiracy is the ultimate expression of modern narcissism. It is a murder cult where the weapon isn't a knife or a gun, it's the ego. It tells us exactly what our darkest, most selfish impulses want to hear, that we are the center of the universe, that we are the only ones who matter, that everyone else is disposable background noise in our grand adventure. But the truth is much more grounded, much more humbling, and infinitely more beautiful. You aren't the only player in the game. We are 8 billion people, all living lives just as vivid, just as complex, and just as messy as your own. Every person you walk past is the main character of a story you will never read. When we lose our ability to see the humanity in others, when we trade empathy for efficiency and people for programs, we don't become gods. We don't become main characters, we just become the villains of a very real, very human tragedy. The simulation isn't the world around you. The simulation is the screen in your hand and the lies it tells you about your own importance. Next time you see a stranger, don't look for a glitch. Look for a person. Remember, they aren't background noise. They are the story, and so are you. The question is, what kind of story are you writing? And who are you willing to delete to finish it?